Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. Serious, what is the best unexplained mystery? The disappearance of Terrence Williams and Felipe Santos. Two men, unrelated, who didn't know each other, disappeared from Naples, Florida 3 months apart under the exact same circumstances. Both men were last spotted being arrested by Deputy Steve Culkins for driving without a license. Neither men were taken to the jail. They just disappeared. There isn't as much evidence to go on with Santos' disappearance, but his story was actively disputed by the available evidence when it comes to Terrence's disappearance. For instance, he had Terrence's car towed and told the tow operator that the car was abandoned. What did he do with these men? My own theory is that he gave them a starlight ride. In other words, he drove them into the wilderness and dropped them off for them to walk home, and they died of exposure/dehydration. To me, it makes the most sense with the evidence. But maybe he's a serial killer, who knows? A podcaster just used my Reddit posts about the case as the basis for his recent episode. I was pretty psyched. The Voynich Manuscript. A long, detailed, and elaborate field guide describing plants and animals that don't exist in a language or code nobody can crack. Other than an insanely elaborate hoax, I have no explanation. The Oakville Blobs. Basically, it started raining one day and citizens noted that the rain wasn't water, it was strange jelly blobs. It happened 6 times in the next 3 weeks, and mass sickness followed. This is less famous than most of the cases listed here, but Trevelyan Evans always got to me. She left a note on the door of her antiques shop saying back in 2 minutes, went to buy her lunch, and was never heard from again. Hoping this case gets a little more exposure. Harold Holt, the Prime Minister of Australia, just disappeared while swimming at the beach in 1967. The most depressing is John Benet Ramsey. The deeper you get into it, the more confusing it gets. The most popular theory at the minute is that she was sexually assaulted and killed by her 9-year-old brother, far from fact, by the way, which just goes to show how crazy this mystery is. To me, it's Jack the Ripper, but a lesser-known one was the boy in the box. In February of 1957, a boy around 4 to 6 years old was found beaten and nude in a box outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His picture was spread all around Pennsylvania, and no one has any idea who he is. The Stardust Crash and the meaning of Stendek. A plane flying over the Andes delivered a final coded message, Stendek, minutes before disappearing. The plane was discovered by hikers 50 years later, but the meaning of Stendek still remains a mystery. A theory suggests that the pilot may have been suffering from hypoxia and misspelt descent, but the message was sent 3 times with the same spelling. D.B. Cooper. Still one of the most fascinating incidents in American history. Madeleine McCann is one where every possible explanation seems to have 100 holes in it. Tara Calico, who disappeared in Sept 1988. A photograph of 2 children emerged in June 1989. It is speculated that the female is Tara. The photograph was discovered in a parking lot by a woman, who claimed there was a Toyota van parked in the spot with a mustached 30-plus-year-old in the vehicle when she went inside the store. The other person in the photograph, a missing male, is speculated as being another missing child, Michael Henley, from New Mexico. Scotland Yard confirmed the female was Tara Calico, but tests of the photo conducted by the FBI came up with inconclusive results. The Antikythera mechanism. I don't know much about it, other than it dates back to around 200 BC and it's apparently a primitive computer. It is the only example of its kind, with nothing remotely similar being made until over 1,000 years later. I was going to say the mysterious lifeboat on Bouvet Island, but it looks like it has recently been solved. Still a good read. The Zodiac Killer or the Tamam Shud case. In 2001, they found a woman's body in a little wooded area in the parking of L'Hôpital Royal Victoria in Montreal. They called her Madame Victoria and have never found anything about who she was. How does someone go die in a parking in the middle of a city and not a single person knows who she is? I think it's awesome. Caso das Máscaras de Chumbo or the Lead Masks case. On the afternoon of August 20, 1966, a young man was flying a kite on the Morro do Vitae Hill, in Niterói, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, when he came upon the bodies of 2 deceased males and reported them to the authorities. When a small team of police and firefighters arrived on scene, they noted the body's odd conditions. The two males were lying next to each other, slightly covered by grass. Each wore a formal suit, a lead-eye mask, and a waterproof coat. If anyone has more information, please tell me. In one of my college ancient Western Civ classes, my professor talked about an ancient Greek civilization that was pretty powerful. Then something happened. There were records by the Greeks of people from beyond their border speaking Barbar, not Greek. The wall was destroyed. The Greeks gave up a large section of their territory and then built another wall. This wall fell as well, and they retreated again and made another wall, this one almost 3 times as formidable as their first one. This final wall was destroyed. No describing characteristics about them. At the walls that were built there were only Greek weapons and armor. There is nothing about the other civilization. If you know what I'm talking about, can you tell me what this is? Event/war/whatever is called. The Sodder Children disappearance. Everything about this is just intriguing. Devil's Kettle. It's a waterfall in northern Minnesota where one half of the waterfall falls into a hole in the rocks and is never seen again. Local geologists have thrown stuff down there and nothing is ever seen again. When you consider 2 types of rocks in the area, it's even more confusing. Probably gonna get buried, but Cicada 3301. A secret organization that gives out a puzzle each year, where winners get a place in the org. The death of Gareth Williams really unnerves me for some reason. He was a mathematician who worked for MI6 and went missing in about 2010. When they investigated his apartment, they found a gym bag in the bath, padlocked shut, and his body was curled up inside. Some people tried hundreds of times, and even if they could get the bag closed, none of them could lock it. Nobody knows whether his death was an accident or murder. Stonehenge. Even with today's technology, we can't say for sure how, why, or who built it. For something over 5,000 years old to hold onto its exact meaning after all this time, makes it one of the great unexplained mysteries. The Roanoke Colony, also known as the Lost Colony. In 1997, a baby in my neighborhood disappeared in the middle of the night. It was a safe, suburban neighborhood zone for the best schools around. I remember hanging out and talking to the police who were stationed outside their house. She was never found and no one was ever charged. The disappearance of Brandon Swanson. Long story short, he was driving down a road in Minnesota in 2008 and came off into a ditch. He phoned his father to ask him to pick him up and told him where he was, and his father said he would pick him up at a nearby town called Linden, that Brandon should walk there and meet him. They were unable to see him initially, so they asked him to flash his car's lights. Nothing. He said he could see the lights of a nearby town and would walk towards them. His father dropped his mother back at home and went back out to find him. That was the last anyone ever heard from him. His car was found near Taunton, Minnesota, around 20 miles from where he said he was. His phone was never recovered. No trace of him has ever been found. No one knows what the lights he saw were, why he yelled "oh shit," why he was 20 miles from where he said he was, where he went, or where he is. The Bobby Dunbar case. In 1912, a 4-year-old disappeared while his family was camping. After a frantic 8-month search, a child matching his description was found one state over in the company of a traveling tinkerer. The tinkerer insisted that the child was actually Bruce Anderson, whose mother, a single, illiterate, poor servant, had given him custody because she couldn't afford to raise Bruce. Julia Anderson traveled to Louisiana to support his story and identified the little boy as Bruce. He later won an appeal, but the Dunbars retained custody of Bobby. 90 years later, Bobby's granddaughter was doing a genealogy project and discovered the old controversy. She had her father and her uncle, son of the younger subset brother, take a DNA test. The test proved that Bobby Dunbar was not related to the Dunbar family. He was Bruce Anderson all along. So, what happened to Bobby? Ketty Cabin murders. A family was killed. There is an online site that has a forum with people's theories. It is also on Reddit, I think, under True Crime. The Colonial Parkway killer on the parkway between Jamestown and Yorktown, Virginia. The guy has never been caught. Killed 8 people and their bodies are missing to this day. Happened in the 80s, but it's a pretty big thing in the area. The disappearance of Agatha Christie. One of the great, if not the greatest, mystery writers of all time, and one day, For no reason, she vanished without a trace. And then she was found 10 days later, suffering from amnesia, but registered at a hotel under the name of her husband's mistress. No explanation has ever been offered by Agatha. The smiley face killer theory. Imagine a killer or killers that are so diabolical that they fool law enforcement into thinking they don't even exist? That's some real-life Kaiser Soze shit. The Valentage Disappearance. In the 1970s, a man flying a light plane flying over water from Melbourne, Australia to Tasmania claimed to air traffic that he was being followed. About 20 minutes into the conversation, he claims it wasn't an aircraft, that the only sound is a metallic sound. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.